If Buddhism does not believe in the possession of a permanent soul, right? Then how Buddhism address the concept of individual karma and the responsibility? After talking these three very fundamental teaching, we also need to know where we go after death, right? So this is something very interesting for us. Yeah? We have to know where we go. And during the Buddha's time, these teachings, I can say that newly discovered by the Buddha himself, right? And sure have never been heard of, in other in Buddhism, right? So in this sharing, I will discuss, this very profound teaching, based on the suttas, several suttas, and then Milindapanha. Afterwards, I will tell you what is Milindapanha, and some post-commentary is called Visuddhimagga, okay? The power of purification, right? The reason why I have to talk this topic is because if you don't understand this teaching, right, very well, that may lead us to misconception that about the believing of existence of the permanent, what we call the soul, a permanent soul. In order to account for the continuity of life, right? You see, rebirth, karma, and that happens just in a short moment, right? So after the Buddha's passing away, a question is asked, right? If Buddhism does not believe in the possession of a permanent soul, right? Then how Buddhism address the concept of individual karma and the responsibility, right? That is to say, if you are doing good, right, you are supposed to reap the good consequences, etc., and of course his subsequent good rebirth, right? So how are you going to account for this? So this becomes a very big question. So before we start, we need to know in brief how other religions talk about rebirth and death before we come to the Buddha's teaching, okay? So the concept of rebirth in other religion. Okay, so now you look at in Hinduism, right? The concept of rebirth, right? All religions talk about this. In Hinduism, the concept of rebirth is centered around the belief in the permanent soul. They talk about the permanent soul, right? In Sanskrit, it's called Atman, right? They talk about the permanent soul, which they believe there is this permanent soul upon the death of the body. This permanent soul, right, entity will move on to the next life, okay? So with this kind of permanent soul, they can solve everything, right? Very beautifully, they can solve everything. So they said that this permanent soul will move on and on and on to another life in different planes of existence, right, including the celestial beings, okay? Or in the, what they call human beings or animal, right? So they talk about this permanent soul rebirth, right? Is determined by his good action or the evil action in his previous lifetime, right? So it is very easy to understand. Even Buddhism also adopt the concept of karma. And this concept of karma has been there even in the Brahmanism, right? So they believe a permanent soul, right? So they said, this cycle of rebirth, right, will continue until this permanent soul attain the final liberation, which they call moksha. Okay, moksha in Sanskrit means liberation, which in their religion is understood as the union with the divine Brahma. Okay, who is Brahma? Who is the creator God. Okay, so it's a union with the creator God. All right. However, this concept of rebirth or reincarnation, right, does not exist in the Abrahamic religion, okay? We call it a monotheistic religion, such as Judaism, the Christianity, and Islam, whose faithful followers believe that after death, right, they will live eternally, right, either in heaven or hell, depending on one's action judged by the God. Okay, so I think it's very clear, right? Yeah, during the Buddha's time, there were two predominant philosophy, right? Teaching with regard to life after death. The first one is annihilationism, right? Or sometimes it's called the materialism, right? Or no life after death, right? In Sanskrit, it's called the Uchedavada, right? Uchedavada. So they believe, there's one group, they believe in, there is no life after death, okay? Meaning when you pass away, everything gone. Huh? So in their philosophy, because of this no life after that, right, then no one should responsible for their consequences. Even you do good also, you won't get any good result, right? Similarly, if you do bad, of course they don't do bad. We don't encourage people to do bad, but they say no one should responsible, right, for their consequences. So that means they do not responsible, right, for bad action that perform during their lifetime, okay, nor their good action. Okay, so I think it's clear. And because of their belief of annihilationism and their irresponsibility of their action, they said, okay, in our practice, why should we torture ourselves, right? They said we should go, to enjoy the life. That's why we call them materialism, right? They said that there's no such ascetic practices. Life is to go and enjoy. That's it. Another view is eternalism, right? Sasatavada, right? They believed in a permanent soul, right? That move on from life to life, okay? And then, so this group of people, right? They believe by practicing the self-torture. That's what you find in Hinduism. They torture themselves, right? There's a term for it. It's called the self-mortification. They torture their body, right? As laid out by the God. They have that belief that his soul, right, will be purified and attain the final union, right, with the Creator God after death, right? That's why they are very, very serious in their practice, as opposed to a group of Uchedavada, right? Annihilation. They don't believe anything because, everything gone when you pass away. Okay. Then of course Buddha rejected these two concepts. And again, what is the Buddha's standpoint?